Hello and welcome to yet another episode of our podcast, Challenging the Norm, his and her look at life and business with your hosts, me, Paul Snell, and the fantastic Lindsey Burden. The podcast for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners that want to experience success in their way, and for those that are thinking about going into business. More on that later. Wrestling with the topics that matter and reality checking the latest trends in business. I work with small business owners, particularly helping them develop their teams, going from good to great to become the powerhouses and love what they do. And Lindsey is a business coach who empowers ambitious women to create financial abundance and a time-rich lifestyle without sacrificing their joy. Good morning, Lindsey.
Good morning, and I really hope you didn't hear the men emptying the bottles, and I'd just like to add they were not my bottles. I think that's the neighbour, I can tell.
No, I didn't hear anything, Lizzie, so
I think
you're probably fine.
Zoom's very good at tuning everything out, but I'm so excited about today, Paul.
Yes, we're going to talk about, is it too late in speech marks? the idea of can there be a too late point, whether that's in business or in life? Can you leave it too late? And Lindsey, what do you think on that? What's your immediate response to that thought?
Well, immediately I'm going, well, there is no perfect time. Now is the perfect time. And we were talking earlier, and I was saying, it's like waiting for all your perfect ducks to be in a perfect row. Just start with your imperfect ducks with their wings not quite ready, the color not quite right. Just go for it, because we kind of smile, don't we? Because between us, there are over 100 years. And we don't want people to wait, but equally we have been through that journey ourselves. I mean, I started my business in my 40s. So let's face it, that was, some might say, quite late. Not only that, and I was doing some maths, and my maths isn't great, I will be honest. So I started my business when I was 45. My daughter was 3.5, and my son was 2.
Wow.
So I had young children and I was old. So, I had a lack of energy, less energy than somebody perhaps in their 20s. But we can't afford to wait, because regardless of age, actually, life can be really, really short. We don't know what's around the corner. So we should do what we want to do when we can, and where we're at, and with what we have, I would add.
Yeah, you make a really interesting. By the way, you weren't old when you started your business, just so we're clear. I'm officially old. You definitely weren't old. I think you make a really good point here. There's two things to jump out. One is you can leave things too late. Now, what do I mean by that? And that is, I'm not talking about necessarily a chronological thing. No. Let me just say, people start businesses at any age. In fact, over 78% of all businesses start in 30 plus age group. And that continues in 50s and 60s. We're more healthier we've ever been. We have more energy than we've ever been. So I want to be clear that we're not talking about leaving it too late necessarily just because of age. There are too many opportunities this day and age. I think the other point to make is this idea of perfection. You talk about the ducks. I love the image of the ducks. And you talk about perfection. I think that's more of a thing that we are going to wrestle with and discuss today. And that is to wait for a perfect point where everything's right to start something. And it made me think, I have 4 children, bless them. And I remember when I had my first child, he's now 30. He was, so what did that go back? That went back a long way, 1993. And I was 26, I'm 27 nearly. And I remember thinking, what's this thing about waiting till you can afford to have kids? I think it's very difficult to nail a point, and I know some people do, And you know, there's no such thing as black and white when people are concerned. It's shades of grey. Some people do feel they have the right situation and the finances to afford kids. I sat there thinking, I don't even know what that would be. I have no idea how I would be in that situation. So I had a child, and it was amazing and challenging and all in one. And I wasn't perfect, and it wasn't, my ducks weren't all in a row, but I wouldn't have changed that for anything. So when we talk about, is it too late? I think the perfection thing is a key part of that. And when we're wrestling with this today, I really feel like, I want to say, circumstances play a big role in what is the meaning of too late. You've described a scenario of having very young children when you started your business. I've had many a conversation with someone who's looking to start a business telling me that they couldn't possibly do this at this time because, I don't know, the children are too small, or I don't have a big enough house, or I don't have an office, whatever they may be. I think it's important for us to discuss this issue around the reasons behind not doing something.
Yeah, and something that came to mind for me when you were talking then as well, you know, how many times as business owners have we had this incredible idea and we play with it, and you know, we research it and everything else, and we don't do anything with it because life gets in the way, stuff gets in the way, business gets in the way, and then somebody else comes out with it and we're like, oh, why did I wait? Yeah, that's why we should never ever wait. And this, you sort of use that word, I think you use the word circumstances. And by the way, everyone, you'll never be able to afford children, so just have them. Quite frankly, that's never, you know, you just manage. But I think that when we're looking for a perfect time, we are growing.
Yeah.
We are changing. The world is changing. Our circumstances are changing. So you could get to that point and then it still not be right. So it's about finding a way to do what it is you want to do and do it now and start now. And that might be, you know, when I started my business, I was still working part-time. I was waiting to be made redundant. I thought they could just make me redundant. Apparently there was a process we had to follow, but you know, so I was doing that, started my business, and I had 2 small children. And so that was not a perfect time by any stretch of the imagination, but I also knew that I had to do it. There was just something in me. I think when that feeling comes, that it's something that you have to do, don't put it off, don't push it down, don't, you know, don't give yourself excuses for not doing it, because that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're looking for reasons not to do the thing. And we can talk, and you know, I think we probably will be using children as a good example. You know, someone could have their children in their 20s and want to start a business, and their reasons, their circumstances will be different from mine. But there will still be things that will perhaps prevent you from starting a business, or that you believe will prevent you from starting that business.
Yeah, and actually I'd go a step further and say, because so much of what we decide to do or not to do is actually unconscious or subconscious. 95% of all the things we do day in, day out is subconscious. So if you're sitting there going, well, I really want to start my business, but all the reasons why you can't, you'll have in your head, and they'll already be negotiating with you. They'll be telling you couldn't possibly afford it. They'll be telling you that you don't have the energy. So if you sit there saying, but I can't right now, there'll be plenty of reasons why you can't. You'll simply come up with them, and you will sit there and you'll procrastinate, or you'll decide that this isn't the right time. And here's where I think one of the big challenges comes in, and that is, in a year's time, for example, you'll be sitting there still telling yourself the time's not right, that it's too soon, or whatever that might be, and you'll have spent 365 days debating that with yourself.